This is Canada Reads American Style, featuring two friends who love Canada Reads and Canadian literature. Welcome our host Rebecca from Michigan and Tara from Ontario.
Hello and welcome to Canada Reads American Style. I'm Tara and I'm here today with a special guest. I have David Giuliano, author, joining me today. Welcome, David.
Thank you. It's really good to be here, Tara.
I'm happy to have you back because this is your second novel. Your first one was The Undertaking of Billy Buffone, and you joined us then, and we are super excited to have you back again. So before we get into my grilling questions, I'll give you a little intro. David Giuliano lives on the north shore of Lake Superior. His storytelling has been compared to Miriam and Elizabeth Strout in its emotional insight and narrative warmth. His books include The Undertaking of Billy Buffone, winner of the 2022 Bressani Prize and one of mine and Rebecca's favorite books of that year, the best-selling Postcards from the Valley, and the cancer memoir, It's Good to Be Here. His latest book is The Upending of Wendall Forbes from Latitude 46 Publishing, and it is now available everywhere. Welcome again, David.
Thanks. It's great to be here, and I love to talk about books.
Me too. Me too. So on that note, why don't you tell us about The Upending of Wendall Forbes, and in particular, a little bit about the two main characters, Ruby and Wendall.
So, Ruby and Wendell are boomers and late in life, pushing 80, and dealing with all of the challenges that go with that, sort of aches and pains. And in their case, they live in an isolated little town and far from any cities, and particularly far from their kids. And they're lonely for them, and also some concerns about dementia and whether that may be creeping into their lives. And they end up hosting a band of strangers in their house during a blizzard, and create some bonding and intimacy among those friendships.
At the beginning of the book, as you mentioned, their son and his family, they've moved away. So Ruby is carrying her cell phone around everywhere she goes, anticipating a call from her son and family who've moved to Japan. This leads Wendell to ponder the difference, and this little gem stuck out at me right at the beginning of the book, to ponder the difference between hope and optimism. Can you say a little about Wendell's thoughts?
Sure. And as a writer, of course, I'm interested in words and what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I notice in our culture we often use optimism and hope as interchangeable. And yet I understand optimism to mean there's evidence pointing to things improving, and hope is a sense of possibility in spite of the evidence. And we say we're optimistic about the person's recovery from surgery because things are going in a good way. And so, in many ways, the book is about hope, where optimism is lacking. We live in a world where despair seems to just stalk the land, and and Wendell in particular is overcome by that. He says Ruby is a perpetually hopeful person. He's not, and somehow this coming together of strangers. And I realized as I was writing it, I was writing about my own despair in some ways, and it ended up kind of creating this crucible of hope in their little house during a blizzard, and how some important people come together and build a relationship and a possibility. And it's not that I hope it's not a panacea of everything's going to be okay, but there's a lot of post-apocalyptic writing these days, and it's very good. But I kind of ended up asking the question: is it possible uh, that we could hope for a better world without destroying it first? That maybe there's a way that we can have hopefulness, and it was a very tiny amount and a few people, but then they head off in all their directions, and I felt hopeful about those people and what they carried with them into their lives in various places and ways.
Yeah, I had not thought about the difference until you pointed it out in the book, because I would describe myself as a perpetually optimistic person. But now I think I would say hopeful. Although
It's hard to be optimistic these days.
it is
Yeah.
because I've always, even within the last year, I've said to myself, like, I've always been very positive about everything, and I'm finding it difficult lately to be
Mm-hmm.
positive.
Me
But
too.
maybe I'm finding it difficult to be optimistic, but I am hopeful for the
Yes.
future.
Yeah. And I hope, and I hope, and I hope that the reader comes away with it with just a smidgen of the possibility of hope in the in the world where there's so much despair.
I don't think there is any way they can not come away with that after having met Wendell and Ruby and reading this book.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear it. And and I wanted to be careful not to make it a Pollyanna-ish, like everything's going to be okay.
Hmm.
But at the same time, wanting to say like we're not helpless, and there are communities of people who we can support one another and encourage one another in good ways, and develop real and meaningful relationships that give us some hope.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about youth and old age because your characters in the book cover the whole spectrum. We have Ruby and Wendell who are in their 80s. There's a young baby. There's 8-year old, 10 years old. There's adolescents. I find these that were often shown, it's depicted as almost an antagonistic relationship, youth and age, but that's not so in your book.
Yeah, the working title for the novel was "Okay Boomer," and and the only reason it didn't go that way is the publisher pointed out that if people search for it, it'll be so hard to find because there's so many
Yeah.
books and so many things about OK Boomer. But I'm aware of. I'm at the tail end of the boomers. I was born in '60, so I'm not as old as Wendell and Ruby, but I'm getting there, and I'm aware that our generation is not really like I think we're seen as having had all the privileges and opportunities and have done a terrible job of caring for the planet and all those kind of things. So uh, I was aware of that, and I was also and I began writing it at 62 when I was starting to think about what does it mean to get older? What is the fourth chapter of life like? And one of the things that right away I knew that is I want to live in an intergenerational community. Like I don't want to ship off to an old age home somewhere, you know,
Yeah.
live with all people my age. I mean, they're beautiful. People my
Hmm.
age, I love them, but it's there's a lot of polarization, compartmentalization of ages and people now. So that and the fact that I was at the Big Digong Anishinaabe, this nearby First Nation, their powwow a couple of years ago, and the elders, they always have two elders speak at the beginning at the grand entry, and I was really struck that time by them talking about how important it is to listen to the youth, listen to the younger people as elders, and that's part of being an elder and listening. And so I feel like Wendell, by choice or by the demand of the angels, uh, becomes silent and as a way of listening more. And that was an important part of it is listening to the young people. And I also think our generation sometimes portrays young people as lazy. They don't have the hardship. Whatever the criticisms are. And I think that it was really important, and that they don't care about the world very much. And I thought it was really important to gather people in that little house in the middle of a blizzard who are concerned about racism and indigenous rights and sexual identity and all those kind of things coming together in one place. That's why I put a gathering of people that is what was it anyway, almost unbelievable gathering of
Hmm.
people. Like their son has a hard time with it by the end of the book, and I quite enjoy his astonishment and doubt
Yeah.
about what's happened. But yeah, I wanted to bring those generations together because I think that it's listening and paying attention to one another that it holds possibility and hope.
Yeah. It reminds me too. I love the interaction. Wendell goes out for a walk, and he, at this time, has, you mentioned that he takes like a vow of silence. That's not a spoiler for anyone.
Yeah,
Uh, but he comes across a group of teenagers, and his interaction with them is brilliant, and it's funny, and it's also hopeful.
yeah. I really enjoyed that part, and
Yeah.
I won't give any spoilers, but it's one of the lighter and more playful moments in the
Yeah.
book, and those kids brought that to him.
Yeah. Well, I think he brought it to them as well. Like
Yeah,
it was like a
he made
shared
him
interaction.
he he felt somehow safe, I think, to interact without words,
Yeah.
and
And you just have to go read the book and find out what we're talking about. I think
yes,
we've
I don't want to ruin it for
no.
anyone. It's just out, so lots of people haven't read it yet.
Yeah. So you mentioned the blizzard that brings them all together. And Wendell has this quote that he, and his love of snow days, I think speaks to all of us, because obviously as children we all loved a snow day. I, as an adult, still love a snow day. And Wendell says, days like these are gifts from nature to humans. How was the blizzard a gift to Ruby and Wendell?
Well, in the immediate sense, it was the the strangers that brought together who took safety in their shelter in their home. You know, I don't know if you know Anne Patchett's Bel Canto, the novel, and it's South America, and they're taking hostage in a house by terrorists. And when I was writing, I think, what will be the who would the terrorists be in Northern Ontario? I said, well, it'll be a blizzard. So there's this kind of intimacy that's created, and it's a gift that way. But more generally, I mean, I can remember our kids on April Fool's Day one day. It snowed, and they phoned their friends and said, "It's a snow day. We don't have to go to school." And you could hear the kids at the other house just going nuts on the other end of the phone. our, our son said April Fools,
Oh,
and and the, just you could hear these moans and crushing sadness, and because and I think you mentioned it, and I know that feeling of, well, everything just stops.
yeah,
We have, and we have suddenly this expansive space where we can't do what we thought to do, and we have to let go of it and maybe read a book, maybe sit by the window and just watch the storm, maybe play a game with the kids in the house, or whatever. And it has this. It's the closest thing I know to Sabbath in our culture. Like, I mean, regular attendance at Sabbath is a rare thing for many people, or even the practice of it. But the storm brings it and says, "Yeah, you have no choice," and to just daydream. I think Wendell, when he says that, has been lying on the couch, kind of moving between dreaming and being awake, and we rarely get the time in our lives to do that, and so
hmm,
it does feel like a gift to me when those storms come, and I do live in a small isolated town in northern Ontario, and I know that feeling. And
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's magical. It's funny because I realize now as a kid, like a snow day means basically you don't have to go to school. So that's the magic of a snow day in childhood. But now as an adult, it is exactly what you say. Like you have a day where you're like, I can't go to work or I can't go out grocery shopping. I just have to sit here with my book. And that moment, I also find too when you first go out of the house after a blizzard and it's just like clean. Oh, it's the best moment.
And there's a quietness that comes afterwards too, that's
Hmm.
quite nice. And the thing about kids is, the funny thing is, they can't go to school because there's been too much snow, and the first thing they do is get the snowsuits on and go out in the
Go
snow.
outside.
They welcome it. They welcome
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I grew up in Newfoundland, so I had lots of snow days when I was a
Oh
kid.
yeah. Yeah.
And I now live in southern Ontario where our snow days are, and we're in this close to the horseshoe, like, near the lake in Burlington. We don't get a lot of snow days. So I always felt bad for my kids because you would sense they would tease that there was snow and then there wouldn't be a snow day. So I
Whenever
remember when they were,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No.
Oh, when they were younger, I would be like, yeah, we're calling it. It's a snow day
Oh,
for
you do it
us.
yourself.
I would do it myself
Awesome.
because
Great
I'm like,
mom.
we need at least one snow day a year, right? I think every kid deserves one snow day a year.
Yeah. Nice.
So I would just
Nice.
call it like, we're doing it. And they were awesome.
Nice.
The importance of storytelling in building a community, because you mentioned the gathering of strangers, and there is a specific moment where they do gather candlelight and they're telling stories.
Hmm. There's a quote I really love, and it actually I use it in the preface to my memoir, "Good to Be Here," about a journey with cancer, and it's from Thomas King in 2003. His Massey lectures. He started every one of them is the truth about stories is that that's all we are. That's what we are. We are our stories. We're a composite of the stories we care, and they create our identity. And the stories we're told shape us. And in the case of the Good to Be Here, it was about the power of stories to heal. But in terms of creating community and intimacy, those are the building blocks of that community. That as we share our stories vulnerably, honestly, and and as we listen, because sometimes people risk telling a story vulnerably and honestly, and don't feel heard. So the storm kind of creates this space for people to share those stories in that way, and for people to listen, and they become the building block. It 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 yeah, kind of it binds us together, and there's something about the electricity being off, about darkness, about candlelight, about fire to keep warm, and those kind of things that is quite. Uh, I don't know if the right word is primitive, but it's something that we carry in our DNA from our earliest ancestors forward into the present. But because we there's no space for it, we don't often do that. And so around the table when they were sharing the stories, I think that it solidified their concern and their intimacy and their sense of community with one another.
Yeah. It created a sense of safety for the characters to share some more vulnerable stories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe because with the lack of electricity, they all shared in the making of the meals too.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think that brought them all together as well.
Yeah, yeah.
It was beautiful. Okay, before to end our little chat, I would love if you shared some book recommendations, what you've been reading lately, some favorite books.
Well, right now I'm reading Thomas King's Aliens on the Moon,
Oh, yeah, it's on my
which
shelf.
it's quite hilarious. And
Yeah,
I mean, what makes it hilarious is that you have this idea that there's these aliens on the moon watching the everyday life of just your average person, and you realize how ridiculous we are as human beings in some ways. So I'm really enjoying that. I
good.
have to say, my favorite book for 2025 right now is Friedrich Backman's My Friends.
Yes.
Oh boy, that is just glorious. And for me, the part I really liked is that it's kind of a lot of the stories around art and a painting, and this particular painting that is of the ocean that made this artist famous. But what a lot of people don't notice is that there's these, I think it's three or four tiny figures of children or teenagers in the corner, and they are the focus of the unfolding story. It's just beautifully written, and lots of Backman, lots of quirky characters
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's been my favorite. The other is Urquhart, In the Winter We Wake Up in the Dark, I think it's called. It was 2024, and it's
Yeah.
very well written and yes, ordinary life kind of historical fiction, but yeah, you're just drawn into the life and what happens and the unique character of the teacher in it. Yeah.
Yeah. I have all three of those are on my TBR. I haven't read them yet. But I was lucky I got
You
to
got a
see
big pile.
I got a big pile. I got a big pile. Um, at Eden Mills this past year in September, Thomas King was there, so I got to listen to him talk
Oh,
about. Oh, he's so good. I love
I've
him.
never heard him in person, but I really enjoy his writing.
Yeah, he's so good. If you get the chance, go for it. Although he teased that he wasn't sure how much he's going to be traveling, but who? At the same time, he's like, I don't know. He's wonderful.
Yeah,
We could sit there and listen for hours to him. He was
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, David, so much for joining us and
Well,
sharing.
thank you, Tara, and all the best to Canada Reads American Style.
Thank you. Thank you. So, David's latest book, The Upending of Wendall Forbes, is now available. You can order it online directly from the publisher, Latitude 46, and we'll put their website and your website in our episode notes, or from your local independent bookstore. I know it's October. The book is now out. This would also, for people who are getting ready for their seasonal reads, would make a lovely holiday Christmas read without all the glitz and glamour of like just a beautiful holiday read. So keep that in mind when you're getting your TBRs ready. Okay, happy reading, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on our bookish journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing Canada Reads American Style wherever you listen. You can connect with the podcast and Rebecca on Instagram at Canada Reads American Style and with Tara at On a Branch Reads. Until next time, keep reading.